Welcome back to Be-Bell Podcast and welcome to Minisodes. This is where we spend a little bit of time, and a very short time, just reflecting on the episodes from the last series. I want to know what you thought resonated with you, and mostly I'll be talking about what resonated with me. So I hope you enjoy them. Welcome to Be-Bell Minisodes. I don't even know where to start with Mark Fennell. I learned something really important actually when I interviewed Mark. As soon as he walked into the room, we just started talking. And I think I learned that on the next series, this part of Be-Bell should just be the outtakes, because my God, what me and Mark talked about before and after the pod was just so important. And I have to get him back on. I know I said to him, I was listening to a pod and it was in two parts that he was on prior to meeting me. And I said, I knew when I saw that 2 parts, this man is a talker. Unfortunately, I hadn't booked enough time in the podcast studio. Otherwise, we would have been there all day. But yeah, so my lesson from that pod was I have to record the befores and afters without a doubt. No one's coming in that room ever again and leaving unless the record is still on, because he is some person, and I kind of adore him. I kind of just think that everybody needs a Mark Fennell in their life. My husband is my Mark Fennell, without a doubt. He's my sounding board. But his story, again, a little bit like Tammy Darcy, he took something that had affected him badly and he worked out a way that actually he could help others through it. And we're back to bullying. And as a boy, from the ages 8 to 12, Mark was bullied very badly. And it took him, I suppose, to think it was over. So he was moving schools. And just one day, he got the courage to stand up and it stopped. But then he realised that that story could help other people. And I go back to this all the time. People often say to me, why do you share so much? Why are you such an open book? And it is because as humans, what we want to do is help. As humans, if I ask any woman that I work with what they want to do, what's their business about, what do they want to do, they always answer, I want to help people. I want to make sure people have the tools that they need. I want to look after people. And that's just natural. We're human. But I share because it only sometimes takes a story for somebody else to realize that they're not alone. And so every time you share, someone will resonate with it. And if it changes things for one person, it is super worth it. And it does take the trauma and lighten the load. You know, if I think of probably my most traumatic time was fertility. If I just lived in that trauma, I don't know where I'd be today. However, I still, years after first speaking about it, help other women to succeed their goals. In fact, somebody put up a picture on social this week of their baby bump and texted me and said, I'm so sorry, Sian, if this is triggering for you. And I said, the only trigger it gave me was pure happiness for you. I never thought of anything, you know. So it's using that trauma. So Mark had basically, he got involved in a charity. His parents, again, he's a grafter. His parents were grafters and entrepreneurs. He saw it. He could be it. They invited him to one of the charities that they worked with. And he got involved with telling his story to other boys that were going through it. And he made changes. And so he's been coaching for a very long time. And I loved the way that he spoke about choices. I'm a great believer in choices. You know, you can never choose what happens, but you can choose your reaction. And he uses a lot of that in his work, like myself. And yeah, as I said, I need Mark Fennell back on the pod because we have so much more to talk about. And I think there are so many people more that we could help. Hi, and thank you for joining me for this week's episode of Be-Bell Podcast. If you have any thoughts, questions or feedback for us, we always love for you to get involved. And you can find us on Instagram at @Be-Bell_podcast. Don't forget, though, that if you want to watch these episodes, you can see them all on my YouTube channel, Sian Horn. And don't forget to follow and subscribe. The more people that follow and subscribe, the better it is for the podcast, the more that we can improve future and going forward. So with that being said, thank you so much for following Be-Bell and I hope you enjoy these next episodes.